When people talk about hustle, they think of working 16-hour days, chasing opportunity and grinding until their fingers bleed. And sure, that's part of it. But hustle without heart is just motion without meaning. You can sprint in circles your whole life and still go nowhere. The world doesn't need more noise. It needs more clarity. It doesn't need more people working themselves into burnout. It needs more people working on what matters. Hustle with heart means you stop chasing trends and start chasing truth. It means you don't wake up in the morning just to check boxes or please people. You wake up because there's a mission that won't let you sleep. Something that keeps pulling at your gut, whispering, build it, fix it, change it. You can't ignore that voice. You're not supposed to. That's your direction. That's your compass. Look, when you're building something the world has never seen, people are going to think you're crazy. They'll laugh, they'll doubt, they'll walk away, and that's fine. That's the signal you're on the right path. If no one's uncomfortable, you're not pushing hard enough. But don't mistake resistance for a stop sign. That friction, that's where growth happens. That's the forge that hardens you. The criticism, use it, learn, adjust, move again and again, iterate or die. Hustle with heart means staying obsessed with the problem, not your ego. It means falling in love with solving, not with being seen. There's no glory in posting about what you plan to do. The real work is quiet. It's done at 2 a.m. while others are sleeping. It's done after the 10th failure when everyone else has already quit. It's done when nobody is watching and you're still not done. We don't build for applause. We build because we must, because we see what could be, because the present is not good enough, because the future is still unclaimed. You want to hustle? Fine. Then show me the data. Show me the prototype. Show me the 1,000 lines of broken code you rewrote because the system didn't scale. Show me the 5th version of a pitch deck you tore apart because the story wasn't bold enough. Show me the team that stuck around not for stock options, but because they believe. Hustle with heart doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't wait for ideal conditions. It moves, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. You want to build a legacy, then don't chase money, don't chase comfort, chase impact. Chase something so ambitious it scares you. Chase the kind of future that makes history books look boring, and don't pretend you have time. You don't. The clock is ticking, and the window is closing. The world is full of people who almost did something. Be the one who actually did. Hustle with heart or don't bother hustling at all. Hustle means nothing without a mission that matters. You can work longer hours than anyone else, sleep less, sacrifice weekends, and burn through your energy reserves. But if it's not tethered to a core mission, you're simply accelerating into emptiness. Activity alone isn't progress. Motion doesn't equal meaning. People celebrate hustle like it's a badge of honor, but what they forget is that direction matters more than speed. You can hustle your way straight into mediocrity if you're not aligned with a purpose. Without a mission, hustle becomes reactive, a series of frantic efforts to stay afloat rather than intentional moves to reshape what's possible. The mission is the why behind the hustle. It's what keeps you going when the excitement fades, when the money runs low, when the setbacks pile up and no one is clapping. If you don't know why you're working this hard, you'll give up the moment it stops being fun. A mission roots you. It gives your struggle context. It turns pain into process. When your hustle is aligned with a mission that actually matters to you, the long hours stop feeling like sacrifice and start feeling like necessity. You're not just working late. You're building something that needs to exist. You're not just sacrificing comfort. You're investing in something bigger than your own convenience. The mission makes the hardship worth it. It gives you the resolve to work through failure after failure without flinching. Because when the mission is clear, failure is just feedback. You don't stop because it's hard. You adapt because it's important. A strong mission is immune to temporary discomfort. It outlasts criticism, fatigue, rejection. You can't fake that kind of drive. You either believe in the mission or you don't. Many people confuse ambition with purpose. They chase outcomes, money, fame, validation, without ever considering the impact of what they're doing. But ambition without purpose is a hollow grind. It leads to burnout, not breakthroughs. It leads to a life that looks successful on paper, but feels empty in practice. A mission changes that. It gives your ambition a target. It turns hustle from chaos into strategy. It makes your path clearer, even when it's uphill. And the truth is, when your hustle is tied to a mission that matters, you don't just work harder. You think deeper. You ask better questions. You stop copying and start innovating. You stop competing and start creating. Your energy isn't spent trying to prove yourself. It's spent trying to solve something that actually needs solving. When you work without a mission, you're always chasing someone else's path. You mimic, you compare, you react. You're driven by external noise. But when you have a mission, you lead, you originate. You take risks that others wouldn't dare because you see something they don't. The mission gives you courage. It makes the risk worth it, because the alternative, staying still, is no longer acceptable. That internal fire is not about ego or glory. It's about refusing to tolerate a world where the problem remains unsolved. A mission gives your hustle a backbone. Without it, you fold when the pressure comes. With it, you bend but never break. People often ask how to stay motivated. The answer is simple. Get obsessed with the mission. You can't rely on motivation when things go wrong, and they will go wrong. You have to rely on belief, on conviction, on the deep understanding that what you're doing matters enough to endure the pain. A mission is what fuels that conviction. It's what lets you operate at a high level even when you're running on fumes. It's what makes you dangerous, not because you're talented, but because you're relentless. Relentlessness is not a mindset you can fake. It comes from being anchored to something that pulls you forward no matter what. When your hustle is mission-driven, you don't need to be told to keep going. You couldn't stop even if you tried. There will be days when nothing works, when the product fails, when the plan collapses, when your best people leave, when the doubt creeps in and the setbacks feel endless. That's when most people quit, not because they're lazy, but because they didn't care enough in the first place. Their hustle was conditional. It was fueled by what they hoped to gain, not what they couldn't stand to leave undone. But if your mission runs deep enough, you'll keep moving, not for applause, not for reward, but because the work is unfinished, because you know what's at stake. That's the difference between hustle and hustle with heart. Some people think passion is enough, that as long as they're excited, they'll figure it out. But passion fades. Passion is fickle. It can disappear overnight. A mission is sturdier than passion. It endures. It pulls you through the burnout, the boredom, the resistance. It gives your hustle roots, and when your hustle has roots, it can grow through anything. It can weather storms that break others. It can sustain you through the lonely seasons, through the false starts, through the 1,000 tiny failures that make up every real success story. If you're grinding every day and still feel lost, ask yourself, what's the mission? What problem are you obsessed with? What outcome would make the pain worth it? If you can't answer that, stop, recalibrate, because hustle without heart will drain you. It will turn your energy into exhaustion. It will turn your ambition into anxiety. You need a reason, a mission that matters not just to the world, but to you. One that you'd chase even if nobody noticed. One that makes sense to your soul even if it looks irrational to everyone else. That's what turns effort into purpose. That's what turns work into legacy. That's what makes the hustle mean something. Obsession with solving is more powerful than craving attention. In a world flooded with noise, likes, followers, and dopamine-triggering validation, it's easy to get caught in the trap of performing instead of producing. Attention has become a currency, but it's a shallow one. It doesn't build systems. It doesn't create real value. It doesn't solve actual problems. People chase recognition like it's oxygen, believing that visibility is proof of significance. but visibility without substance is just theater. It's a distraction, it's movement masquerading as momentum, and when you're focused on being seen, you lose the focus required to truly see what needs to be fixed. Obsession with solving demands a different kind of energy. It's internal, not performative. It's the kind of intensity that makes you disappear from the public eye for months because you're knee deep in prototypes, in code, in calculations, in brutal failures. It's not about building your brand, it's about building something that actually works, something that matters. It's a mindset that rewires how you operate. You stop asking what will get applause and start asking what will get results. It's not glamorous, it's gritty, it's quiet. While the world chases trends and followers, you chase the solution to the thing that keeps you up at night. You can't fake obsession. It shows in your work. It shows in the decisions you make when no one's watching. When you're obsessed with solving, you don't care if the credit goes to you or someone else. You care that the thing gets done, that it works, that it scales, that it lasts. Craving attention is about feeding your ego. Obsession with solving is about killing your ego so the solution can live. The two are fundamentally at odds. One needs the spotlight, the other needs the lab. One performs, the other builds. One demands praise, the other demands iteration. It's easy to stand on a stage. It's hard to stand up after your 10th failed build and keep working when you're obsessed with solving. Failure is data. It's part of the process. You don't take it personally because you're not in this for the applause. You're in it for the answer. That mindset is liberating. You can take bigger risks. You can think longer term. You don't need immediate validation because you're not doing it for validation. You're doing it because you see something broken and you can't stand not to fix it. That kind of obsession can't be taught. It has to come from within, from a place deeper than ambition, from the part of you that's not okay with mediocrity, from the part of you that believes good enough isn't good enough. People who crave attention build fast and shiny. They cut corners. They optimize for likes and headlines. They ship incomplete products just to say they shipped. But people obsessed with solving move different. They don't rush for the sake of appearances. They grind for the sake of performance. They're not trying to be first. They're trying to be right. And right takes time. It takes depth. It takes understanding the root of the problem instead of just polishing the surface. Obsession forces you to go layers deeper than anyone else is willing to go. That's where innovation happens, not on the surface, but in the core of the complexity. This obsession also reshapes how you measure progress. Metrics change. Instead of measuring engagement, you measure efficiency. Instead of tracking followers, you track function. You stop asking how something looks and start asking how it works. This shift seems subtle, but it separates builders from talkers. It separates the ones who are trying to be famous from the ones who are trying to be useful, and usefulness compounds. When you solve something for real, it echoes, it outlasts you, attention fades, solutions scale. Obsession with solving also influences your team. When your people see that you care more about the product than your own ego, they rise to that level. They stop playing politics. They stop performing for credit. They start executing for the mission. Culture shifts. Priorities realign. You stop attracting opportunists and start attracting operators. People who want to build. People who care more about impact than impressions. That kind of culture doesn't happen by accident. It's driven by your obsession, your intensity, your refusal to be distracted by the shallow rewards that seduce so many into playing small. And yes, obsession has a cost. It's not balanced. It's not easy. It takes sacrifice, but that's the price of doing something exceptional. The world doesn't get changed by people who dabble. It gets changed by people who go all in, who don't let go until the thing works, who'd rather be misunderstood in silence than applauded in mediocrity. That's what makes obsession with solving so rare. It's not just about what you want to achieve, it's about what you're willing to endure. How many nights you're willing to work through, how many versions you're willing to scrap, how many pivots you're willing to make, how long you're willing to go unnoticed while you're building something no one else believes in, yet attention is easy to get and hard to keep. Solutions are hard to get and easy to scale. Attention comes and goes with trends. Solutions create revolutions. If you solve the right problem, people will find you. You won't have to yell. You won't have to beg for clicks. The work will speak. The results will resonate. That's the paradox. When you stop chasing attention and start chasing answers, the world eventually pays attention anyway, but by then, you don't need it. You're too busy building the next thing, so the real question is this. Are you more obsessed with being seen or with seeing the solution? Are you building for followers or are you building for function? Are you addicted to visibility or to progress? The answer determines everything, because one leads to burnout and emptiness, the other leads to breakthroughs, and only one changes the game. Only one reshapes industries. Only one truly matters in the long run. Obsession with solving is not a trend, it's a mindset. It's a commitment to stop entertaining and start engineering, to stop performing and start producing, to stop craving attention and start commanding respect through relentless, focused execution. Real progress comes from relentless iteration, not perfection. Perfection is a myth that paralyzes more than it produces. It's the illusion that something must be flawless before it can be useful, and it's a trap. It keeps people stuck in planning, polishing, and overthinking while time slips away. Progress doesn't care about polish. The world doesn't need perfect, it needs better, faster now. The people who change industries, the ones who break through, they don't wait until everything is ready. They ship, test, break, learn, and do it again. They understand that success is not a single massive leap. It's the result of thousands of micro adjustments, tiny pivots made in real time under real pressure. Iteration is messy. It's frustrating. It's not elegant or glamorous. It doesn't photograph well, but it works. The reason most people never create something truly impactful is because they get stuck waiting for the moment when it all feels right. That moment doesn't exist. It never has. There is always one more thing to fix, one more tweak to make, one more unknown. Relentless iteration means you stop chasing the perfect version and start building the current one. You launch the version that's good enough to test. Then you listen, adapt, redesign, and repeat, not once, not twice, constantly. This is not about being careless, it's about being courageous. There's a huge difference between reckless execution and bold iteration. Iteration requires humility. It means being willing to be wrong in public. It means exposing your ideas to criticism before they're fully formed. It means valuing feedback more than your pride. The people obsessed with perfection rarely ship anything because they're terrified of flaw. The people obsessed with progress ship everything because they're obsessed with what they'll learn. That learning becomes leverage. Every test becomes a stepping stone. Every failure becomes insight. Every setback becomes a sharper understanding of what not to do next. Perfection, on the other hand, is slow death for innovation. It kills momentum. It drains motivation. It creates fear-based decision-making. If the standard is always flawless, you'll hesitate to take bold shots. You'll fear being wrong. You'll avoid risk. And in avoiding risk, you avoid reward. Perfection creates fragile builders. People who can't recover from mistakes because they never practiced failing. Iteration creates resilient builders. People who have failed so many times that it's normal, expected, even welcomed. This is where breakthroughs come from. Not from carefully guarded concepts, but from relentless trial and error. Progress looks chaotic from the outside. It's rarely linear, it's filled with wrong turns, dead ends, and false starts. But beneath the surface, every iteration is building momentum. Every experiment is closing the gap between where you are and where you want to be. You might pivot 100 times before you find traction. That's not a flaw. That's the process. That's the reality of building anything worth building. The biggest mistake is thinking the first version needs to be the final version. It never is. The only thing that matters is whether the next version is better than the last. This mindset transforms how you approach problems. Instead of asking how to get it perfect, you ask how to get it live. How to test it today, how to learn something this week. That urgency accelerates everything. It forces clarity. It exposes weakness. It reveals what actually works versus what only works in theory. The real world is the ultimate testing ground. It's brutal, but it's honest. Perfection hides in simulation. Progress thrives in application. You can sit in a room for months designing a beautiful model, but until it's exposed to the market, it's a guess. Iteration replaces guesswork with data. It replaces speculation with insight. It replaces fear with action. Relentless iteration also requires emotional discipline. It demands that you let go of your attachment to what you've already built. Sometimes you have to destroy what you created last week because you now know it's wrong. That's hard, that's painful, but it's necessary. You can't fall in love with your drafts. You have to fall in love with the outcome. The willingness to kill your darlings, to scrap work that took days, weeks, even months, is what separates real builders from hobbyists. It's what moves you forward when others are stuck polishing something that will never fly. There's a deep misconception that great products, great ideas, great systems come from a sudden flash of genius. But that's mythology. The reality is iteration layered on iteration, feedback loop on feedback loop, failure on failure until something clicks. It's not that the successful version was perfect. It was just the latest and most informed version. The one that absorbed everything the previous versions taught. It's why iteration compounds. The first version is usually embarrassing, but the fifth version, the 10th, they start to work. They start to get traction. Not because the builder got smarter overnight, but because they kept showing up and adjusting based on what the world told them. This cycle, build, test, learn, repeat, is what drives innovation in every field. Whether you're engineering hardware, writing software, launching a service, creating content, designing systems, or anything else that has to work in the real world, iteration is the engine that makes it real. Not the dream, not the strategy deck, not the vision board. The act of building again and again until the thing does what it's supposed to do is what delivers real value, and iteration doesn't stop when something finally works. That's another myth, that there's an end point. There isn't. Even after launch, even after growth, even after success, the work continues because every environment shifts, every market evolves, every solution creates new problems. If you stop iterating, you start declining. The hunger to improve must outlast the hunger to impress. The builders who dominate are never satisfied, not because they're ungrateful, but because they understand that refinement is never finished. Relentless iteration changes your relationship with time. It makes every day an opportunity to test something, to learn something, to fix something. It breaks the illusion that big wins come from big moments. They come from the accumulation of small ones. It creates a rhythm, a drumbeat of action that replaces paralysis with progress. And over time, that rhythm becomes a culture. A way of operating, a way of thinking, not just for you, but for your team, your product, your entire ecosystem. Everyone starts moving faster, thinking sharper, building stronger, not because they're chasing perfection, but because they're chasing what's next. That's the mindset that scales. That's the mindset that lasts. And that's the mindset that builds things that outlive you. Impact, approval, build for the future, not the followers. A approval is fleeting. It's dependent on trends, moods, algorithms, and opinions that shift by the hour. It's reactive. It rewards conformity and punishes disruption. People chase approval because it feels good in the moment, but it rarely creates anything meaningful. Impact, on the other hand, is rooted in substance. It takes longer, it's harder. It requires you to be misunderstood, criticized, doubted, and ignored, sometimes for years, but it's the only thing that actually moves the world forward. Approval feeds the ego. Impact feeds the future. If you build for approval, you'll find yourself making safe choices. You'll optimize for applause instead of effectiveness. You'll stay inside the box because that's where validation lies. But nothing great ever came from staying in the box. Every breakthrough, every leap forward, every category, defining invention came from someone willing to be unliked for a while. Someone who said no when it would have been easier to say yes. Someone who chose truth over trend. Approval demands that you mirror what already exists. Impact requires you to invent what doesn't. Approval is about fitting in. Impact is about standing out. When you're building for the future, you can't expect the present to understand you. Most people are wired to resist change. They're comfortable with what's familiar. So when you bring something new, something different, something better, it often gets rejected. Not because it's wrong, but because it doesn't fit into what people already believe. If your goal is approval, you'll fold under that pressure. You'll water things down until they're digestible, palatable, popular. But if your goal is impact, you'll keep going. You'll endure the criticism. You'll outlast the skepticism. You'll push through the noise because you know the value of what you're building goes beyond the moment. The people who build legacies are almost never the ones chasing approval. They're the ones who stick to their vision when everyone else is telling them to pivot. They're the ones who refuse to compromise on principle. They're the ones who take the long path when shortcuts would have earned quicker praise. They understand that history doesn't remember who was liked. It remembers who changed things, and change is uncomfortable. It's disruptive. It doesn't always look good on a feed. It doesn't always get applause. But its necessary. Building for impact forces you to think differently. It forces you to measure your work not by how it feels today, but by what it will enable tomorrow. It's not about hype. It's about usefulness. It's not about scale for the sake of scale. It's about significance. Will this product solve a real problem? Will this system make people's lives better? Will this idea unlock new thinking? Those are the questions that matter. Not how many likes you get, not how many people agree. Agreement is not a metric for progress. In fact, if too many people agree too early, it probably means you're not pushing hard enough when you prioritize impact. You give yourself permission to take risks that approval wouldn't allow. You try bold things, you pursue bold ideas, you step into uncomfortable territory, you accept failure as part of the process instead of something to be avoided. Because failure is visible, it's public. And if you're building for approval, that's terrifying. But if you're building for the future, it's necessary. Failure is just feedback. It's proof that you're stretching, that you're aiming beyond what's currently accepted. That you're refusing to settle. Approval also creates dependency. It makes your decisions contingent on public reaction. It teaches you to seek permission before making progress. That's dangerous, because the bigger your ambition, the more resistance you'll face. And if you're conditioned to wait for applause before you act, you'll never take the kind of action that changes anything. Building for impact means acting before applause. It means doing what's right before it's popular. It means standing by your work even when it's not celebrated. Especially when it's not celebrated. This is not about being rebellious for the sake of it. It's not about rejecting feedback or ignoring users. It's about knowing where your compass points. It's about anchoring your work in principle and vision rather than popularity. It's about staying true to the mission even when it costs you approval, because every time you choose impact over approval, you deepen your integrity. You build resilience. You train yourself to lead instead of follow. And that's what it takes to do something that lasts. The world doesn't need more people mimicking each other for attention. It needs more people solving problems that matter. More people building tools, systems, ideas that shift the status quo. Approval is about ego. Impact is about responsibility. When you realize that what you're building could change lives, you stop caring so much about whether it's cool. You start caring about whether it works, whether it scales, whether it holds up under pressure, whether it endures. It's easy to get pulled into the gravitational force of validation. It's tempting, it's addictive, but it's also a trap. The minute you start building for followers instead of for function, you compromise. You start trading truth for traction, depth for reach, purpose for popularity, and those trades always come at a cost. They make the work weaker. They dilute your vision. They distract you from what actually matters. Building for the future requires discipline. It requires saying no to noise. It requires choosing silence over attention if the silence gets you closer to the goal. And the irony is this: when you stop building for approval and start building for impact, people eventually notice. Maybe not right away, maybe not loudly, but they notice. They feel the difference. They see the depth. They experience the usefulness. And when they do, the recognition that comes is deeper, more enduring, more meaningful. Not the kind that trends, the kind that lasts, the kind that builds movements, the kind that inspires action. Not just admiration. You don't build something great by asking who will like it. You build something great by asking who needs it. What future needs to exist? What problem is too important to ignore? That's the lens that produces real breakthroughs, not the fear of criticism, not the hunger for applause, but the drive to leave something behind that didn't exist before. Something that makes the future stronger, sharper, more efficient, more inspired. Followers are fickle. Trends are temporary. The future is waiting for builders who are bold enough to ignore the crowd and fix their eyes on what could be. Who are willing to walk alone for a while because the destination is worth it, who understand that applause might come later or never, but impact is its own reward. That's the work that matters. That's the mindset that creates change. That's what separates those who chase approval from those who shape the future.